Hello guys, how are we? These purple curtains though. I'll be very happy when they're gone. And welcome to another video. I've just made myself a cup of tea and I've sat down because today's video is going to be slightly different. I've been taking you on the vlog style so far. And this kind of is, I suppose, the same because I'm giving you a life update, but today's a little bit more storytelling. And yeah, I don't really even know where to start with this, but I'm just going to get into it and tell the whole story, tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, and see where we land. So bear with me. It is currently Friday afternoon. I just finished work. I have to go get the kids soon, and tomorrow I'm having a procedure done, and I wanted to kind of update you on all that. But I also felt that it would be remiss of me to tell you and explain about the procedure without the backstory, because actually that's the reason why I'm getting this done. So, how many years ago now? Like 13 years ago, I think, is my maths right? When I was 24, I had a procedure done on my nose. So I essentially had a nose job. I had a rhinoplasty. And the reason for that at the time was I had a very kind of like obvious bump in my nose that I hated. And the interesting thing is, like, I didn't always hate it, and I didn't always, obsess about it or get hung up on it or anything like that. But I think it got to a point in my life where there was a lot going on at the time. My parents were separating. That's like, I mention that sometimes on my Instagram and different things. And like life was just, it was very crazy and turbulent, but it was very high anxiety. And I don't know why at the time, but, and I'm not saying I blame my parents for me wanting to sort my nose out, but I think like suddenly everything, do you know, it's like when something's bad in your life, everything that maybe is a bit, you start getting a bit high alert and high anxious about everything. And I don't know why, but at that time, I guess my confidence had taken a knock and you were just feeling a bit down anyway and down in yourself and all the rest. And suddenly I just became like, not even like obsessed about it. I don't even know how to articulate this because I probably never even like explained all this fully properly to anyone. I know this myself and I've never voiced it out loud. So it's like, how do you even, like, that became the thing I kind of nearly, I just started to hate it. I just started to hate the bump in my nose. And I was like, I have to fix this. I think I kind of clung on to it a bit and was like, I just need this gone. So like, even though it had never been a thing in my mind, it's not like I lived it was always there, but it's not like I lived every day in my life prior to that being like, I cannot stand this. I hate looking in the mirror, whatever. It was kind of only in the lead up to that, in the lead up to me actually making a decision and getting it done, that I was like, I really want to change this. And my brother was getting married. He was engaged and he was getting married. Maybe like, was it the year after? And I don't know what, maybe that sort of sparked a thought in my mind. And I just remember thinking when they got engaged, I was asked to be a bridesmaid. And I remember thinking, oh my God, like if I'm a bridesmaid, I don't want anyone to have a side profile picture of me. And then I was like, if that's even a thought in my mind, does this bother me than I've even ever known, And like, it's such a strange one because it's not like I was a really, I wasn't like overly, like, it didn't affect my life, I suppose. I didn't, growing up or as a teenager, like I wasn't like walking around, hiding from the world, or like I was a confident person, I would say. Not like as in like, oh my God, I'm fabulous. As in, I was confident in talking to people, and yeah, it never affected me until then so badly. But when I started to have that thought of like, if that is one of the first things in my mind, that, oh my gosh, I don't want there to be that kind of picture of me, that's a problem. Like, and I don't like that I think that or whatever. And then there was a couple of things going on at the time as well. So I was trying to remember, why did this even happen? I had a series of scopes done. I've always had a kind of a funny tum, like IBS-y tum, and gastro, like as in really bad heartburn and stuff, right? So I've had a couple of scopes done in my life, thankfully always like fine and everything else. But at the time there was like scopes and things going on. And my dad had had a operation on a deviated septum in his nose. And I remember thinking like, oh, like maybe I have that problem. And the way the scopes were going, it was nearly shaping up like, yeah, like you might. And I had a scope done on my sinus, and it was all things like that were checked at the time. And through that whole phase, kind of like, while these thoughts have been creeping in anyway, I started thinking to myself, oh my God, I kind of hope I have what dad has, because then maybe that's an excuse for me to get surgery and I can get this thing sorted. So then that thought was like creeping in. And then I remember thinking again, you know, my mind sort of then went to, okay, hang on, like if that's even a thought of mine, if I'm nearly willing that surgery onto me, like I obviously want to do something about this enough to do something about it. I don't even know where I'm going with this, but I then made the decision, okay, if I actually deep down wanted that badly, I'm just going to do something about this myself. Because if I am going to, you know, get a surgery and all the rest, like I want to know the person who's doing it, and I would rather like be able to have those conversations. And anyway, I don't know. I made the decision. And it's obviously not a decision you take lightly, because I think where getting something like that done is so different to other cosmetic procedures, like maybe a boob job or something. And I'm not diminishing how big a surgery that is, but like I often think that with something like a boob job, for example, I'm just going to use that as an example. Like if you got your boobs done and you absolutely hated them, it is a nightmare, do not get me wrong, but you could get them taken out. But if you mess with your face that you were born with, and especially in the case of like removing a bump or changing something like that, you know, in your nose, like you can't undo that. Like, well, maybe nowadays you can with the way the world's gone, but like it's not a decision you take lightly, like because you are structurally changing something about yourself and you can't undo that. So I thought long and hard about it, and then I remember going to my parents separately at the time and saying like, I think I really want to get this done. And that was a big thing, because then you're like nearly like, oh my God, I'm like, you're nearly even scared to admit that to them and to say that out loud. What I did, and they were so supportive, and they were just like, but if it's really something, you know, I think as well, like people don't, you know, you don't just decide about this stuff overnight. Like, so anyway, my dad, you know, was like, well, look, if it's something you really want to have done, then okay, you know, and we'll support you, whatever it was. And then I remember at the time, like there had been talk with friends and things about like the scopes, and oh my God, I might just get this surgery done. And then it was like, oh, now I'm getting this surgery done. And like, I didn't tell people. Like I just didn't tell people, and not because it was such a big secret or I was so ashamed about getting this done, because I tell people everything. Like even now, like when I get my Botox and my lips done or whatever, I'm like, oh, I get my lips done. Like to me, it's not that stuff is a bit of fun. Like I don't take anything I do to myself lightly, because you're making decisions about your body and your face and your health and everything else. But like I'm not shy about things I get done is the point, and I will always share these things. And I was not in any way embarrassed or ashamed at the time that I was choosing to get a cosmetic procedure. But what I didn't want to admit, oh God, it's like, oh, I've thought this so many times, but I've never said it out loud. I ain't a crier, guys. I'm not one to get emotional, and I have been sick, so we'll try and keep this one together. Maybe it's the tiredness. I didn't want to have to admit that I hated something so much about myself. And I think that is the hard thing. And you don't want to, like I didn't want to have to say that to anyone. And even though, like looking back, why? Like what's the big deal with admitting that? I can't describe it. I think at the time when something has grown in your mind so much to be such a negative thing, you're like nearly, I don't know, you're nearly scared to admit that to someone. You're afraid to, I don't know, not scared to, I just didn't want to. I just didn't want to have to say to someone, like, I didn't care to say like I was getting surgery. I don't give a shit about that. It was like, yeah, I just didn't want to have to say why. Like, even though I'm sure if I was just like, I'm getting my nose done, of course it was obvious. Like everyone would know why I'm getting it done. Oh, like you're getting a bump removed. But it was, yeah, I didn't want to have to admit to anyone that it had gotten to the point that I hated it that much. And that makes me sad, like for myself, that I felt that way. I don't know. I even just think life was so mental then. And in so many ways, I would just love to take that girl now and say, it all works out. Life doesn't stay that crazy. Whew. Sorry. I need to gather myself. I need to decompress. I don't even know now if I'm upset at the thought of hating something so much about myself, or I'm upset at how crazy life was. But look, somewhere along the way, the two got meshed into one in my mind. And yeah, maybe, I don't know the psychology behind it all, guys. But it was just a crazy time. And anyway, I do look back sometimes and I think, wow, like, yeah, so much has changed. But anyway, back to the face. So yeah, so sorry, that sounds awful. Like, I didn't admit it as if someone was like interrogating me and I was lying about it. Not that. Like, I just didn't say it. And there was people I told by, like, my ride or dies, and I did tell people, like, I'm getting this done. And then there was other people who kind of just thought I was still going maybe for like a medical reason surgery. And then I just couldn't bring myself to actually go back and say, actually, do you know what? That kind of changed course at some point or another. And I kind of just made the decision myself that whether that was happening or not, I'm going to get this done anyway. Again, because it all came back to that admitting piece of, like, I didn't want to have to say why, because it was like, well, actually, I just decided whether the doctors tell me I need that or not, I'm getting it done because I hate my nose so much. So anyway, so I got it done and that was fine. And I know it's so funny now because I don't give a shit who knows now. Like, I suppose it's a testament to maybe like how far I've come in terms of like I'm able to even say those things now. But I often think it's a funny one because also I don't have a perfect nose, and I don't mind that. You know, I've always liked that because it's like, yeah, they got the brief, they removed a bump from here, and then like aesthetically it's still not perfect. Now, I didn't ask for I didn't say make it look kind of bendy and funny, but just take the bump away. Like they do, you know, it's a complicated surgery, and I guess they did the best they could at the time. And actually, like, when I came, like, in the first few years, I felt it was even a bit more symmetrical. That's the word I'm looking for. So anyway, forget the symmetry and the aesthetic of it all. Where am I going with all this, and why the hell am I getting a procedure tomorrow? So a couple of years ago, and actually this is funny now, this part, because I was thinking about it the other day. I was talking to my amazing friend Madeline about this, and I was like, when did I first notice this? And I know exactly when. I cannot breathe properly out one side of my nose now, my right hand side. And the first time I noticed this was I was doing pregnancy yoga during COVID, and when I was pregnant with Taylor, and it was with Charlotte Farrer here in Tuam, and I was sitting in like my kitchen floor in our rented house at home or whatever on my own, and we were doing this breathing where any yogis in the world will know, or you've probably done this before if you're into meditation. You put like one finger on your forehead, I think, and then you block a nostril and you kind of breathe through one side, exhale, then you block the other one, breathe through the other side. So I was doing this a series of times, and I was like, you know, breathe perfectly. Like when I'd block my right nostril and breathe with my left, perfect airflow. Then you get to the other side and I'd be like, oh, like, and I would just notice it, and I'd be like, I don't get the breath as freely, like I'm not getting a nice intake there. And then I started realizing over the last few years, and again, it's like, I don't know when all these issues kicked off or the exact timeline of it. Certainly in the last 2 years, I've noticed more that when I sleep at night, if I turn on my right hand side, I'm instantly uncomfortable because I cannot breathe as freely as when I turn on my left. Anytime I get so much as a snivel, a cough, a cold, or whatever, it's always the right hand side that's blocked up. Whenever I've had sinus infections in the last few years, it is always the right hand side that's blocked up. So last year, I got a cough for 4 months at night, and it ruined my life because at the time Jamie was still not sleeping. I was absolutely exhausted, and I would just get her back asleep and I'd crawl back into bed. Like, yeah, I wonder, like, if I was assessed at the time, would I've actually been clinically exhausted, because like the state I was in day to day. Anyway, I would finally be like, oh, I can go back to sleep now, and I'd cough cough, 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 cough all night long. And when I went to that amazing doctor that I've talked about a few times on my Instagram before to get my hormone assessment done last year, I talked to him about it that night, and I was like, that day, I was like, Dr. Sam, I was like, I'm coughing every single night. I can't cope with this because my child doesn't sleep, and then she gets back to sleep, and then I'm awake coughing. And anyway, he was telling me, talking about a few things, and he was like, it's likely postnasal drip, and that's what it sounds like to me, and that at night it's just aggravating your chest and you're coughing. And then when we went to, I don't know if any of you follow my Instagram, you'll see I went on a girls' trip last year with some of my Galway and Mayo gals. So myself, Debbie, Jill, Liz, Aisling and Pam. And I was sharing a room with Debbie. And I had to say to her on the flight, or on the way over, I was like, just letting you know, I was like, I'm really sorry. I cough every night and it's been going on for months. And I'm just letting you know because I'll probably keep you awake. And I instantly was kind of like, oh God, I don't want to keep, it's so unfair on her now if I'm keeping her awake. Because Dara was used to it. Dara hated it. He was always like, because it was affecting his sleep as well. But anyway, Debbie, I said it to her. And the next morning after our first night in London, she was like, some cough you have there. I was like, I'm so sorry. No, she slept. She did sleep for the 2 days. I hope she wasn't just being overly polite. She did. I think she slept. But that's how bad it was. So anyway, between me not being able to breathe out one side of my nose and the persistent cough, I went back to the GP last year and I just said, look, and it's one of these things, guys, I was putting off because I was like, but I'm grand. I'm healthy day to day. I can breathe, just not amazingly. So I'll just ignore this again for a while. And then one day, even the hassle and even trying to get into a GP with small kids and work and everything, it's hard unless you're actually really, 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 really sick. So I booked in and I went and I just said, look, I had this surgery done when I was 24. I cannot breathe out properly out one side of my nose. I've also had this cough going on for months and months. And in the meantime as well, sorry, I should have said on the cough thing, I had also been to my doctor in Tuam about that and they sent me for a chest x-ray and that came back clear. I was put on a series of steroids for sinus to try and alleviate the postnasal drip. It still continued. I don't even remember exactly when the cough eventually bloody stopped. But anyway, and that day, the doctor said to me, well, that is a problem. If you can't breathe properly at one side of your nose, and it does sound like it's all linked, that there's some kind of issue going on here that is obviously causing a breathing issue, but it's also presenting in, exacerbated chest symptoms and things like that. So she said, I'll refer you to an ENT. And I said, okay, well, if you're referring me to an ENT, I want to go to this particular one. And there was a guy I'd heard of. It wasn't the person who did my original surgery. It was just this ENT specialist who also is a nose specialist, a plastics nose specialist. So the person I went to the first time was general plastics in terms of they do everything. They did, I think he did facelifts and boobs and nose and everything. Reputable, perfect surgeon, whatnot. I'm not diminishing his value either, and I obviously did my research and all the rest of the time. But just since then, I had become aware of this man. I actually knew I met someone along the way who'd had their nose done, and I always remember thinking, God, that man was good. She was just, it was pristine, and yet you'd not know there was a thing done. I don't know, and in my mind, I don't know why, and it's funny how these things happen. Why did I meet someone randomly who told me they got a nose job once, and why did that even come up? It's I just needed that little bit of info in my back pocket for at some point. And that conversation was probably 8 years ago. And then I found myself in my GP surgery a year ago and she's telling me I need to go and get these issues assessed. And I said, well, if I'm doing that, I don't want it to just be a standard ENT who might just assess the sinus and all the rest. I want it to be someone who knows plastics because I want them to be someone who understands the level of work that was done before. And because to my mind, I don't know exactly when these issues kicked off in the last 5-6 years. During COVID is when I first noticed it. But I didn't always have a breathing issue. I didn't. And I don't think it's been going on since I had this surgery done. I think something has shifted. And I always remember the surgeon on that very first day saying to me, you need to be aware that a nose is not a piece of furniture. It is not a piece of wood. It is a living organism. It is in your body and things can move and shift over time. So he wasn't preempting that, oh, this is going to be a shabby job and it's all going to go sideways eventually. But he was, as a good, thorough doctor and surgeon does, they give you all the T's and C's and the here's what could or couldn't happen, you know, like with anything medical, you have to be aware of the potential risks long term. And I always remember he said that, and I don't know why that really, again, of all the things I talked about with him, that always stuck out in my mind. So I truly believe my nose has moved. My nose has definitely moved since I had it done. And, you know, I said this to my mum a few months ago when all these issues kicked off, and I was like, oh, she's referring me to this ENT, and like, I just think my nose has moved. Like, why would I suddenly have this breathing issue? And she was like, it definitely has moved. And I was like, what do you mean it's moved? You've noticed and you haven't told me? So anyway, she was like, no, it definitely has. She was more or less saying, like, from when I first got it done to now, like, it has definitely moved. So I feel like the story's all over the place, but bear with me. Then she sent me to the ENT, and he sent me for a CT scan, and it came back with a very obvious blockage in my sinus and deviated septum. So I was there and then told, you're a definite candidate for surgery, and, you know, if you want to go ahead, we can throw out dates or whatever. Well, actually, there was a few other things he wanted to check and do, and that, so that was like a couple of months. And he more or less said, this was like last July, I think I got the CT scan done, but he was kind of saying like it'd probably be early next year before anything would happen anyway. So in December, I think I had an email from his secretary, and just saying like, look, are you still looking to go ahead with surgery in 2026? And if you are, we can get, like, you looked at dates and all the rest. And I was kind of like, you know, at the time I was feeling well, you know, the 4-month cough had gone, like I was well, I'm living, I'm working out, I'm walking, I'm doing my thing. And I'm kind of like, no, I don't need surgery. I'm not going to go through with that. That's just annoying and like such a life inconvenience and hassle, and the recovery and the being away from the kids and all the rest. So I was like, no, I'll just leave that again now for a while, and just, you know, and we're moving house and all that's going on. And then you land me to 3 weeks ago when I woke up at 4 a.m. and I couldn't breathe. And that was scary. And that was not just my nose. That was my chest. That was everything. That was the sinus infection gone wrong. But I suppose what has struck me is that, and I've noticed this now in several different instances, 3 weeks ago was the absolute lowest of the low of it all. But it's like now when I get sick, nothing is clearing, and it's all just going south, quite literally. Like the sinuses can't clear, they can't drain, everything's going down into my chest. That's why I coughed for 4 months last year. That's why this turned into such a bad chest infection that, you know, the doctor was looking for pneumonia. Like, it's just getting to this point where I don't want sickness to get to anymore, and I don't ever want that to happen again. I emailed the secretary back I think probably the next day after that scare, and I just thought, oh, here, maybe this is a sign, maybe I do need this done, because I don't want things to keep getting this bad. So I emailed her back, and she came back with some dates, and one of them happened to be very early in March, and it's this weekend. So it was very rare to have like a weekend surgery as well, and I was like, oh my god. And then all the other dates were like midweek, and everything was like April and May, and I was like, oh yeah, maybe I'll just get it done like May and coming into the summer. And then I was like, no, look, there's a date there. You know, mum will be home from New Zealand. Well, she's just gone home by the skin of her teeth. But I was like, mum will be home from New Zealand. Like, she could bring me up and down because it's in Dublin. It's weekend, so I don't need to be away from Darren and the kids midweek. And then it's done and it's behind me. And hopefully, fingers crossed, I never have to think about or do anything like this again. And I booked in. And I booked in. I talked to Dara about it. I talked to mum about it, dad about it. I talked to everyone in my life about it. And I was like, should I, shouldn't I? Like, this is mad. And I'm, you know, and then I was like, no, like I just feel this is the time. And yeah, like, so I did. And I still now, even like, it's tomorrow, and I'm still now like, oh my God, have I done the right thing? And it's that like nervous apprehension and like, yeah, but then I also just feel that it's so necessary now. And yeah. Anyway, I don't know like why I'm even just like, oh, I feel like this is a Dear Diary entry and not like a YouTube video. But yeah, it's like that nervous apprehension before surgery. It's the kids, I think, as well. You know, like first time, it was just me and I was just doing my thing. I was like living at home and like, you know, and this time is kind of like, oh, like, yeah, it's them. I don't want to be away from them. And then you're kind of like, oh my God. And then the recovery part, I don't even want them to see me with like bandages on my nose or whatever. But this equally has to be done. And I kind of feel it's gotten to the point where if I don't resolve it now, this potentially could continue to present in worse issues. This could get worse, full stop. Maybe it won't, But if it did, and then if I had to get this surgery again, like 5 or 6 years time, I'd be like, heck that now, why didn't I just do it there and then when I was younger and fitter and healthier? And it was just, and like we're 3 weeks on from my, episode of not being able to breathe and the chest infection and everything. I've had a round of steroids, I've had 2 antibiotics, and I'm still so stuffed up. And on Monday of this week I had to go for a pre-op consultation. I had to go up to Dublin, and I came home and I had again all that nervous apprehension. I was like, am I mad? Like maybe this is all too rushed, and maybe I don't need this at all. And you're talking yourself out of it nearly. And on Tuesday morning I woke up with pain, pressure, stinging. And I actually was like, this is a sign. Like, I need to just get this sorted now, because if my sinuses cannot drain, and you could see it so clearly on the CT scan. I wish I had the CT scan to like pop up on the screen for you here now. Like it one is so blocked, and he was like, that can't drain, and then my septum is like totally deviated. So the reason I went to the ENT with the plastics specialty is because I wanted to say, I truly believe this is because of the operation I had before and that my nose has moved. And I wanted someone skilled enough and in the know enough to say that if you need to, while you're in there and I'm under an anesthetic, structurally fix something so that this doesn't shift again and things don't move again or whatever, do it. Because I don't want to have to go through a surgery again. Like, I really don't. And like, if it wasn't for a medical issue, I can tell you here and now, I wouldn't be doing this. And it's interesting though, isn't it? I'm like the boy who cried wolf, because I nearly willed this on me 13 years ago when I was 24. And now it's exactly what's happened. Do you know what I mean? It's like I manifested the wrong thing for myself. I manifested a nose issue, a face issue. And now I kind of wish I never did. But anyway, on the plastic side, he was very like, I was like, look, I know my nose is not perfect. Like, obviously you can't even see it on the screen here. It doesn't matter. But like, I wish you could all feel it actually. I wish you could all have a feel in my nose. It like kind of feels like there's a whole lot of stuff missing here. There's like a point here where it kind of sticks out. It's like internally there's bones going this way and that way, like it kind of curves here, and then it inside it feels like it's doing that on this side. Anyway, so I just was like, yeah, look, this is where it's blocked. Is it this? And he was kind of like, well, look, he said, I'll know more when I'm sort of in and I can see it. But he said, I'm going to be really conservative with you, because he said, you've had stuff done before. Our focus is obviously fixing the issue, and that's my focus too. And just, not doing anything to upset the apple cart. And like, I guess there's an element to this of leave well enough alone. So that's fine. But I just feel I am in good hands, because it's not someone who's just going to like go in, fix the sinus or the deviated septum, come back out and be like, she's grand. It's someone who's kind of assessing the whole picture. And I just felt that was important, considering my previous history and surgery and all the rest. So yeah, that's it. So why am I telling you all this? Yeah, now let's get into the why. Why did I choose to tell you all this? Well, first of all, because I'm going to be bandaged up and maybe a bit black and blue for a week or so. And because I am so happy sharing this stuff with you guys. And there was one main message that I just thought, you know what? Yeah, I think this is important. And that is because when I was 24, there was something I hated about myself and upset me and brought me to a point where I was embarrassed to admit it. And every day in the job that I do now, as a, PT and online fitness coach, I work with the most amazing people. Like, I'm truly blessed with the women I work with. And sometimes I read their stories and I'm in tears and I'm thinking like, oh my God, like, anyway, the amount of women who sadly come to me and say like, I want to lose weight or tone up or get fit, or I want to change things because I hate myself and because I cannot look in the mirror and because I'm, I don't know myself anymore. I don't recognize myself and I just want to feel like me, and all of these reasons. I get that. And I wonder, I don't know, but I wonder sometimes when people write those things to me, or someone else is admitting it, and it's a really hard thing to admit if you are feeling that way. I'm like, do they know that I know how that feels? Like, do you, like, I actually just feel like picking up the phone and ringing them and being like, I'm telling you I get this, but do you really know I get this? Like, I really know, because I've literally been there. And I know it's for different reasons. When you hate something about yourself, like, you don't have to live with it. And that's why I love what I do, because I get to help people out of those holes sometimes. Obviously, my case was so different because it was like a structural thing that I chose to change through surgery. I'm certainly not saying everyone should run out and have surgery. That is, please don't get me wrong, that is not the message. However, I am also saying if there's something you really is like getting you down and impacting your life, it is your life and you have the power to change it, no matter what that is. And don't ever let anyone make you feel like you can't. Like, I was so lucky in that moment that when I went to my mum and dad, they were like, okay, like, they took it seriously, and they weren't like, don't be ridiculous. Like, what are you saying? You couldn't be getting that done. Obviously, they questioned it and they made sure I was really sure. They didn't just like, shove me out the door to go get it done. But they were really understanding and listened. And then we're like, well, do you know what? If that's what you really want to do, we'll support you in it. No, like, if you're coming to me and you're telling me you hate something about yourself, I truly know that feeling. And I will absolutely do my damnedest when it's a health and fitness related issue to help you get to a point where that is not the case anymore. But as well as that, I've learned over the last number of years since sharing more online, when I shared about my missing periods or my postpartum prolapse, like, in doing that, the amount of messages I always get after people being like, oh my God, me too. And I thought I was the only one. Well, I used to think I was the only one when I had a missing period. And I thought I was the only one when I first had the prolapse. And it was upsetting. And it can be such a lonely place when you feel no one else is going through the same thing. So maybe you today or someone sitting at home desperately wanted to change something about yourself, whether it is your weight, how fit you are. It could be something structural, like a body part, but like, whatever it is, it could just be the way you do something, your hair, I don't know, like, whatever it is. All I'll say is, like, you're not the only one, and it does help to talk. And sometimes all you need is for someone else to put their hand up first and say, well, do you know what, I actually went through that as well, or I did that too. And then it's not so lonely. And one thing, it's like maybe closing message on this, and because this helped me massively, when I got that first surgery, okay, I felt like the only person on the planet who was getting something like this done. I was like, oh my God. When I got to admissions that day for my surgery, it was in the Mater Private in Dublin, and I got in and they did my bloods, and the lady doing my bloods, like, she was like kind of older, gorgeous, just real normal, like, lovely lady, really chatty, and she was like, and how are you today, and and what are you getting done? And I was like, well, I'm actually getting a rhinoplasty. And she was like, I had that done years ago. And I was like, what? I was like, did you? Like, I nearly fell off the chair because I was like, oh my God, I didn't know anyone who's ever gotten anything like this done. And I didn't think this was like a done thing. Then they got madder, and I felt again, this all truly needed to happen when I was brought out of surgery that day. And then this stunning Indian nurse was like looking down over me. She was like a supermodel, and I was like, oh my God. And she just looked at me and she was like, Laura, she's like, you're done. And she's like, how was it? And I was like, good, I hope, I don't know, and she was like, I had it done. And she was like, it'll be absolutely fine, like, your recovery will be fine. And I was like, you had it done too? And in my mind, I was thinking, like, all these people are walking around having had these surgeries, and I've made such a big deal about it in my mind, and it's like not a big deal at all. So yeah, and then anyway, that helped me. So it helped me to know other people had it done, and hopefully in sharing this, it might help some of you, and that you get the messaging in it. It's not to say everyone like that run out and go and have surgeries left, right and centre. It's just to say that we all can go through these things, and we can all not like things about ourselves and want to change things about ourselves, but you're certainly not the first one who will have wanted to do it or do the thing. I feel like I'm not even talking right anymore, but I hope you get it. So there we go. So it's tomorrow. I have to fast. I have to get up at the crack of dawn because I have to be there in admissions at like 7 a.m. My mum's going to ring me. She did get home from New Zealand. I feel desperate because she's like so jet lagged. And then I was going to go up and stay with my brother tonight. But then I don't know, I just don't want to be away from the kids tonight. I just want to sleep in my bed tonight. I'd rather get up at 4:30 and in the car 4:45 in the morning. I will update you along the way if you're interested. I think by the time actually this video goes up, the surgery will be done. And maybe I'll update you on the recovery process, because why not? And yeah, like fingers and toes crossed. This is my main thing. I'm just like, this better fix this bloody issue, because I don't want to go through an anesthetic for nothing. So yeah, there we go. One last thing, not that I need to like tell you every single detail of the story, but I also think this is it was a nice thing after when I had that first surgery as well. I remember, if anyone has been in or was in Dundrum, probably not anymore, in Dundrum Shopping Centre, so I grew up near Dundrum, and I remember being in Dundrum Shopping Centre shortly after I had that surgery done. And in the mirrors in House of Fraser, in the concessions area where there used to be like Miss Selfridge and maybe like, was there a warehouse or I don't know, all those concessions, in those changing rooms up on like the second floor of the shopping centre, whatever it was, there was fitting rooms that had mirrors like in front of you and beside you and maybe behind you, but there was like this funny sort of corner mirror, like a small panel in between. Whatever way the mirrors were set up in the dressing room, it meant whatever way you stood, you could actually see your side profile. Like you were kind of looking at your side profile. And I just hadn't seen it since I'd gotten it done. And I started crying. And I actually just knew in that moment, I was like, oh my God, you did the right thing. Like, well done you, because that's how much this meant to you, you know? Now I'm kind of crying because I don't really want to get surgery done because I'm kind of nervous about it. But then it was the right thing. And yeah, I just thought that was nice that like I've no regrets about getting it done. It's kind of annoying. I feel it's maybe shifted and caused this issue. Again, shifted whatever way. If it's shifted aesthetically, like my mum told me it moved, I don't give a toss about that, because my main concern at the time was gone. So I don't care if it looks like an S-bend. It's never bothered me aesthetically. And not an ounce since that day, and I'm so happy about that. And it still doesn't, if it stays like this for the rest of time, if I come out of surgery tomorrow and it still looks the exact same but my issue's fixed, pristine result. But it's just interesting, that's how much how like elated I was after. So it was really and truly worth it. So there we go. There's my big long story for you. I have told it in bits and pieces, and it's probably not so cohesive as I wanted, and I certainly didn't anticipate getting upset. And but sure, look, it's done now. So I'll talk to you on the flip side. Wish me luck. And yeah, round 2. Have to just calm the nerves. Thanks for listening. And if you have any questions or any comments, or if you want to get something like this done and you want to have a chat, will you please just let me know, because it's hard when you don't know anyone in the same boat. And to anyone who in my life who maybe thought that previous surgery was about something else and I never quite corrected you on it, I'm sorry. I just didn't really want to have to get into the detail. But there we go. So yeah, I'll talk to you later.